I, Bruno Lozano, do solemnly swear. I was nervous the day of the election because, I mean, am I gonna win?
It's a waiting game.
This is like what's going on. You know, I hear that everybody voted this way and this person voted that way, and is it gonna be close? What's the margin? We didn't know, and then the results came in, and I've been forever changed. Forever changed. My life is never going to be the same. It was never gonna be the same the day I put my name on the ballot. But the day that I won the election, my life completely changed. Overnight, instantaneously. You did it, Mom?
Love you, mija. Yes, you did it.
Yes, I am born and raised in Del Rio. I am the proud son of Bruno and Polita Lozano. I grew up on the north side of town. Del Rio is known for its San Felipe neighborhood. We had a San Felipe high school there, so they graduated from that school, which just shows my background that I have a history of Del Rio. And my grandparents are known in Del Rio as well. We have Chema's Tortilla Factory, so right across the San Felipe High School, we had the factory there. They made tortillas and barbacoa on the weekends. And my grandfather Lozano, he had Lozano's West Side Texaco on the north side. So very established families here in Del Rio. And how I got to put my name on the ballot is really a story of just caring about the community. And because this is specific to LGBT, I'll touch base with the history the year prior to that. I was living in Michigan, and the Orlando massacre happened. When I heard about it, I was flying home from a work trip from Amsterdam, and I had just heard when I was there in Amsterdam, we saw the reports where like 9 people were just shot. You know, it was just happening because it was in the afternoon in Amsterdam, so it was overnight, you know, in Orlando. When I landed, the USA Today had mentioned the specifics of the 49 LGBT, Latino LGBT at that, you know, members that passed away because they were assassinated by that assailant, and my world was completely turned upside down, and I went into this like shock of like, oh my gosh, do they hate me in Del Rio? Do they hate me at home? Do they like, why now? Why is this guy targeting us? Like what has happened in society? And I basically I called my mom and my dad together. We cried for hours. And I'm president of the class of 2001 Del Rio High School reunion board, and I called the vice president then because we were supposed to be having our quinceañera themed 15-year reunion that August. And I was like, I can't do this. I don't know. I mean, what if I'm scared, like, you know, what if they hate me and this is getting national attention? And my mom, my father, the vice president, and another friend of ours who was also on the board, they were like, no, Ralphie, like, you can't be afraid. You can't be scared. You can't go back in. There's no closet for you to be in because we love you, you know? And my mom and my dad, their message was just like, we love you, mijo. No te dejes, like, don't get upset, things like that. So I pressed forward with the reunion. But what I did is prior to that, our first reunion, we had to pay dues. I mean, it's like government. You had to like get the money to fund your place, to fund your location, to fund your entertainment, and getting 28-year-olds and then, you know, 33-year-olds to give you money is like it's a good challenge. But what I did after the massacre, I really reflected on life, and I reflected on what it felt like to be what it feels like to feel excluded, you know, and whatever the case was with this individual that felt that he had the right to do what he did by assassinating strangers, you know, it really resonated. Like this individual felt excluded for whatever reason. He was hiding from his wife, his child. He was targeted a group of people, individuals, and other massacres in similar ways. You know, I'm not saying that other massacres were any different. It's so depressing when this happens. You know, and it's I don't think I'll ever get to the point where I'm, what's the word that I'm looking for, immune to or apathetic, you know, to that. It will always, any massacre affects me, but this one in particular resonated because it's LGBT Latino community. So again, I go back to, I know what it felt like to be excluded. So this reunion, the Quince reunion, I called the two guys, Claudia and Robert, the vice president, and I guess he's like a vice president. I said, you know what? We're going to be inclusive. We're going to invite every single classmate, whether they graduated Del Rio High School in 2001 or not, whether they still lived here or not, whether they just attended middle school here, any one of our elementary schools. If they are part of the 2001 family, they're invited to come to this reunion. And it's important that they feel included. I don't care if they can't afford it. We want to make sure that there's no dues, that there's no excuse not to come to their reunion. It is their reunion that we're organizing for them. And they're like, yeah, Rafi, of course, let's do that. Let's do this, let's do that. So we got it going. My father catered, he did the floral design. We had a local caterer, Claudia's cousin or brother, and it's just like we had the backing of all of us. And whatever we didn't come up with, wherever we felt short, the three of us put on our own dime to support this. That night is what really planted the seed, which is in fruition today. I'm known for wearing heels, and I had my heels on at the reunion. After my speech, I was the master of ceremonies, and I did my speech, and we always, I reflect on our lost classmates that are no longer with us, and I kind of drew a summary of like the first reunion in the last 10 years, this reunion in the last 5 years, and making jokes and making people laugh, and it's always hard to read the names of the classmates that are not with us, and it's very emotional. But then we start celebrating life. We start celebrating with cumbias and DJs and hip hop music and things that we did, and I come out in my heels and yeah, Rafi, awesome. My classmates are very supportive of each other. We're a very tight class. It's a very unique situation here in Del Rio High School, and some of my colleagues at work are like, you guys do reunions? And we're like, yeah, we still do. So that night, a couple comments by some of the people that weren't really aware of who I am, I guess, as an adult. I don't know. They were like, oh, look at his heels in Spanish. Mira sus tacones. Like, why does he have that on? And these football jocks that I admired in high school. I'm a small frame guy, and here they are, the football jocks. Hey bro, what's up? And they're like, hey bro. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be having the celebration today. And to hear that is a message of like, it's happening. People are looking beyond attributes that don't pertain to the soul. Yeah, I am a gay guy, but I'm a human being that's trying to unify our class. So that night, after everything was said and done, it's like 2:30 in the morning, the classmates were like, Rafi, you should run into politics. You should do it. I mean, this is so awesome. Look what you did. You had the valedictorian and a dropout talking to each other. Like, did you know that they didn't even finish high school and they're talking to the valedictorian? Like, do you know what that means? And I'm like, okay, like, sure, and I clean up the creek. I clean up San Felipe Creek. I get my feet wet. I am knee deep in mud, like trying to get that one plastic bag. I planted a tree on our classmates' behalf, and we have vigils there. So they know what I've done for us, our little group of individuals, and they're like, what you've done for our class is important right now in society. It's important right now in Del Rio. Del Rio needs you. So, okay, sure. I started doing my research. I started coming to council meetings. I did round table meetings at my house. Like, I have PowerPoint presentations of like, this is what's going on. This is what I discovered. I click a file. I click the Creek programs. I click, I just dove in, not knowing what I was getting into, really. I had a vision of what I wanted to achieve, and then I just started walking the path. And life happens. You have the course. It just, the ebb and flow of life. And I got such great feedback. And I went in thinking, okay, let me run for council. Like, let's not go all the way to the top just yet. Let me get my feet wet, educate myself on what it means to be a representative of the citizens of Del Rio. For every 6 individuals, for every 6 people I asked, 5 were like, no, you need to be the mayor. No, we want to, if you can run for council all you want, but we need you as mayor of Del Rio. And I was like, are you serious? Like, you really see this in me? They're like, yeah, absolutely, hands down. And I'm talking about individuals that don't know each other. They're not even remotely related. I had individuals that were at my meetings, they saw my presentation, they heard what I had to say, and they were like, no, absolutely, you're what we need. It's like, okay. So then I started the ball, started coming to city council meetings, and I'll never forget when, I was sitting here in the audience, not knowing how meetings really go. I saw them on TV, but to be present is completely different than just watching it on TV. And I had some friends of mine that had come to the round tables, and we sat here, and at the end, they asked, hey, are you guys okay? Do you guys need anything? And I was like, no, we're good. They're like, well, what brings you here? And I was like, just concerned citizens. I mean, we're just learning. They're like, okay. And I gave some feedback about the airline at the time. We had a service that didn't, that kind of, for lack of a better word, it failed, and now we're getting a new airline service, hopefully beginning in November. But at the time, that was the hot topic. And I was like, no, I gave some feedback from my perspective, working in industry and things like that. But that's when that started. I started coming more often and attending. And then my father passed away in August of last year. So I got the brakes. And I was like, should I do this? Should I not? I didn't know. I was really like very emotional because my parents are my number one fans. They've always supported me, and I miss my dad. It's like a father-son. Our relationship grew so much in the last years of his life, and that was a very tough day when he passed away. And he had cancer and PTSD. He's a veteran. But a friend of mine said, are you going to do this or not? Just came over to my house like a month later. And I was like, dude, I'm mourning my father's passing. Like, I'm not even thinking about that right now. They're like, look, I'm going to be very blunt. You started this movement whether you realize it or not. People are listening to what you're saying. You might have like 5 supporters right now, but they're diehard supporters. And if you don't put your name on the ballot, you're going to regret it in 4 years. And I was like, okay. He's like, I know you're mourning the loss of your father, but this is the now moment. In 6 months, you'll be much better. In 7 months, you'll be even better. In 8 months, and just in a year, you'll be looking back and you'll think about this moment. He's like, make sure you get your name on that ballot. And I was like, okay. So thought about it, had some more round table meetings, kept coming to the council meetings. January came along, February came along, got my paperwork in, turned it in February 6th. The deadline was February 16th, only one other opponent. So there was 3 of us originally on the ballot. The other opponent was disqualified because he was also on the district ballot. And I ended up being the only opponent. And that's how it happened. It stemmed from a tragedy. Jokingly in my 20s, you can ask some of my airline colleagues, oh yeah, I have all these, they're like, you have all these great ideas. And it was just an idea. It wasn't, I don't think I was as serious as I was over the last 2 years. I was just like, okay, cool. It's just an idea. I have so many ideas as a 20-something-year-old, trying to find my path in life. I love my airline job. I love flying. I love being able to see the world and just go anywhere I want on a day off, But I love this community. This is my heart and soul. I carry Del Rio with me when I'm flying. But it stems from having that effect of community, having that effect of understanding what inclusion and exclusion feel like and knowing the differences. And in my adult life, Diana, I'll tell you, I lived in neighborhoods or nearby neighborhoods or in big cities where neighborhoods were prominent. I left Del Rio at 18 because I was looking for acceptance. I was looking for people like myself. I didn't feel accepted growing up here. And looking back, my friends from high school were like, you were so loud, everybody loved you. And I'm like, I didn't feel that way. Whether it's because I didn't love myself, maybe I didn't accept myself, maybe I just didn't understand. I didn't really trust gay people. I really didn't trust straight people when I was growing up. I felt I was bullied a couple times. The people that were my friends, they didn't know I got bullied. I didn't feel like, this is in the late 90s, middle school, high school. It's like, who can you tell that you got beat up because you're gay? And the words that they use they're very colorful words. And it scars you. So I left, moved to Chicago, moved to LA, moved to Seattle, I was looking for community, looking for inclusion, and I have some of the best friends in all these cities. but I didn't feel this Tejano culture, this Tex-Mex, the tortillas, the barbacoa, turning on, the music, the Tejano conjunto, corridos, corrida, whatever, but Spanglish, it was always missing, and I missed it so much. So here I am, Mayor of Del Rio, mayor-elect.
That was awesome.
And I did join, I think you mentioned the Air Force, right?
Yes,
you want me to talk about that?
Tell me about your time in the Air Force.
So I was 20 when I was starting talking to my dad about joining the military. My dad was drafted to Vietnam. He served because he had to. And so he's looking at his 20-year-old son like, are you serious? You want to join the Air Force? I was drafted, like, you're going to hate it. You're going to do this. He's just like, whatever. He knows when I have my mindset on something, I'm going to do it. There's no way around it. I'm going to do it. And sure enough, there I was talking to my recruiter. My dad was like, no, you don't do it. And I enlisted on my 21st birthday, and I went to basic training about 3 weeks later. And my AFSC was security forces, and at the time there was a special needs contract, or they had a shortfall of certain jobs like security forces, bomb, fire, rescue, things like that. So there was a high intensity jobs were what they needed. So I qualified for that, and there I go, not really knowing what I got myself into. I was curious about the military. I wanted to serve. I wanted to see what it's about. I understood don't ask, don't tell, and I asked my recruiter, it's don't ask, don't tell. He's like, it's don't ask, don't tell. You have your life, and the military, that's how I understood it. But it's a different thing to be security forces, being, witch hunting, I guess you could say, your own people, knowing that it's like a conflict of interest. It's a struggle. It was an internal struggle, having to witch hunt some of the people that I went to training with. There was a guy in particular that got discharged because he was gay, and he was just not living, under the regulation that was required of him. I was. I didn't ask. I didn't tell, and they didn't ask. That's exactly what the rule was, and I abided by it. Off uniform and off site, I had my lifestyle. I have great friends from South Carolina. I was stationed at Shire Air Force Base. I had a couple supervisors that were picking on me, asking me, where's your girlfriend? Do you have pictures of your girlfriend? And I was like, no, and I don't have a girlfriend. They're like, why not? They were really trying to like catch me off guard. They were borderline asking questions, but I never bowed. I was already in a way ahead. I was 21 years old and already thinking, ahead of what they were asking. In training, I got made fun of. This one guy came up to me, and we're in our gear. We had just finished training at Camp Bullis, and he comes up to me and he's like, it's good that women can serve. It's a good thing that women can serve this country. Look at you. And the other females were like, what are you talking about? We're right here. And he's like, no, I'm talking to Erin Lozano, woman. And they're like, do you know this is like 2005? Like, women have been able to serve for a while. Like, and what are you getting at? What are you trying to get at with him? And they're like, he was just a very passive, aggressive, blunt. That was a very direct, derogatory, phrase that he was trying to get at with me. But I was just like, whatever. I just stood there like, I can't really say anything. What am I gonna say? So, because I'm wearing the same uniform he is, I did the same training, I'm qualified on the same weapon systems, so, and he knows that. I don't know why he's saying women are weaker. And that's another thing. I've always advocated women, and women's rights and stuff like that, but we digress. But I deployed to Kuwait. After my supervisor was asking me those questions, I really just wanted to deploy. I was like, I want to just get out of Shire Force Base and just go to the desert and just be deployed. And I did. I deployed to Kuwait, Al Yasalam, and we did convoys. We had a morgue for the fallen soldiers. That's where they would come in, when they were being transported from the up north, Iraq. They would come. They would do the convoy in through our facility, and it was always very somber. It's like quiet when their convoys would come in, because that somebody died. That these are their last belongings that they had with them, and has to be sent back to their families. Like that connection lives with you. It's with me for the rest of my life. And then we carried them, honorably from one, you know, onto the aircraft with the flag. It was a very, it touches you in a way that it's like, these are our fallen soldiers. These are our fallen troops. These are our fallen men and women that are serving to defend, for whatever reason, for whatever, you know, we volunteer for this, and not all of us go back home. And seeing that firsthand, and being isolated from the United States and our comforts here, it impacts you. It impacted me for the rest of my life. Also, you know, I was in a foreign country. I was in Kuwait, a non-gay friendly country. Women had just gained the right to vote that summer. And one day we had, the guys love to joke around on the radio with each other, and like, you know, they were teasing this one guy at a post, and the Kuwaitis are feminine. They're feminine. They hug, they hate, but also the language doesn't translate the way English does. So some of the words that they were using, it sounded like boyfriend. Do you have boyfriends? Do you have like girlfriend? Like the question is, what about your friends? Like, you know, but they're adding the gender specific. And this guy was just like, I don't have boyfriends, you know, whatever. Like I have a wife, you know, he got really upset. And I didn't know this yet. So there I am being me. Hey, how was your day? And he looks at me and he's like, get away from me, flamer. And I mean, just explosive. And everybody got so quiet. They were like, and they dragged me to the corner to kind of hide me from turning in our weapon systems. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in Kuwait. Like, you know, am I gonna get sent home? Like, what's going on? All these things going through my mind. And I was like, but leave it to the commanding officers. They sent me home and to our rooms, and then they got after them. And then the next day, I was actually on post with him, and I was the one in charge of our vehicle that day. And he towards the afternoon, he's like, you know, I'm really sorry, you know, for what I did yesterday, and I realized that I was out of line. And I was like, remember how you felt that day, you know, being teased because you're being surrounded by the guys that are asking you questions that are innocent. I go, what you experienced in one day, I've experienced my entire life. And remember that. If you have children, remember that message, because it's important that you understand how you impact other people. And you know, we shared some stories and stuff, but that's just one experience.
That's a teachable moment. Did your identity as a gay man affect your campaign any?
So here in Del Rio, you know, everybody knows Ralphie. I have pictures of me in heels on my social media, and I knew that going in. I knew that on the ballot. I didn't even try to take anything off social media because screenshots are out there, and I live in modern times. I use the apps, you know, Instagram and dating apps, Tinder and things like that. So like I'm part of this new trend that everybody's well aware of. But I'm the first candidate to be part of that generational change, you know. I didn't even try to take down the pictures. There's no way. There's no way. Some of the pictures that are floating around, they were cropped, and some of the context was taken out because you don't see what's behind me, or you don't see the crowd or anything like that. So you just have this guy in a tutu, Speedo, and heels, like going like this. You know, what these individuals don't realize, that image actually made the front page of Seattle Gay Times when I was living there. So they don't see that. But the public, I feel like, saw beyond that. They saw an individual that cares about his community. They saw an individual that happens to be gay. He's not this guy that's promoting a specific agenda, and I'm not. I reached to every single person that I possibly could. You know, baby boomers, millennials, the younger. I talked to high school kids, and I talked to senior citizens. I talked to conservatives, to family values, to liberals, more progressive, to everybody. And my message was always the same. I'm here to unify. I'm here to bring opportunity to Del Rio, to bring employment opportunities, to really reinstate pride in our community that's been lacking. And that message resonates, you know. And I feel like this is a learning lesson for people that want to be divisive. Your time is limited, you know. We have specific needs, but we are all a community. And one of my messages, you know, is community begins with you. Where do I fit in? and the Strip in San Antonio, that's where a lot of LGBT they commune there. I don't have that option in Del Rio. My gay bar is my house, basically. Like, I don't have a gay bar to go to. So we go out to the clubs here, and we have trans, we have lesbians, we have gay guys, we have bisexual, we have everything on a micro level here in Del Rio. And we go to the same venue that the people that used to bully me go to, that the supporters go to. We don't have this option. And so we have to live with each other. Whether you accept me or not, my message was, I won't bow down. I've said that before. And that message prevailed that I'm for the community. So was it a contributing factor? I've heard that some people didn't want to vote for me because I'm gay, and that's their prerogative. I'll still try to get that street paid for them. I'll still try to get the best services possible for them when they come here to City Hall to pay their water bill. I'll still do my best because I know, again, what exclusion and inclusion feels like. And I don't want them to feel excluded just because there's a gay mayor running the show now. No. You have your belief systems, I have mine. I'm at peace with my God, and I hope they are too.
How do you hope to make a difference in your community?
Great question. So this is kind of like the umbrella. I think if you look past at certain council meetings, especially recent ones, there's a dividing factor, and I just feel like the council can't, they're unable to push a lot of things forward because it's kind of like there's a division and it's very symbolic and people are belittling each other. And I tell, the staff, let's communicate first. Let me be the mediator. Let me be the person that can get these two opposing ideas and find the best solution to move forward. Let's find some resolution in our differences. Let's speak to each other. Let's respect each other. That's my first mission, is to unify the council. And I know I want to try to get jobs here, but that's like a long-term thing. I can't get there if I can't have a unified council that will support bringing an outside entity to our community. That goes with businesses. I want to work with the businesses that we have here. I want to promote local. I want to promote the guys that are already established and the gals that are established and get them to get our city to take pride and to unify this city. And that's what I think that's an important message to walk these halls, and I wave at the city employees. I say hi, and I can see that they're being lifted. That their morale is already like turning. Conversations are being had. Like Mayor Lozano was in the hallways. Did you see him? Oh yeah, I had an employee earlier today. I heard that you went to our offices and I wasn't there all last week. I wanted to make sure that you saw me, that I'm there too. And I was like, yeah, of course, and it's important that they feel. They, the employees, they, the community, they, the citizens, it's important that they feel like that I'm approachable, I am open to their ideas and suggestions, good and bad, that this is their place to come and find answers to their government, And I also invite them to City Hall to our council meetings. I'm like, once I'm in there, come, remind me why you voted for me or why you didn't vote for me. Come, be involved. It's important that we're involved in our government.
And on that note, what advice would you give to the future students, whether they're in the LGBT community or not? How should they proceed with getting involved?
An example. We know that the massacre in Florida, and the students wanted to walk out and protest. How I stand on that is one element, but the students are gathering momentum and unifying themselves with these walkouts, with these protests, with these ideas, right? I had a high school student here come to me, and we were just talking, and she's like, I'm having a conflict because I want to go to the walkout, but I just don't feel like it's going to accomplish anything. And I said, why do you feel that way? She's like, because it's mostly symbolic. We're just walking out. We're just showing unity, but what are we getting done? And I said, well, let me give you let me plant some seeds. I go, it is important that you are unified. And I don't necessarily think that a walkout is as productive as it can be, but why don't you get a group of students together and come to a council meeting and just be present? And then when a council member or the mayor asks you, why are you here? You answer, because we're students, because we're affected by your decisions today. And that, I think, would have an effect. And you can still go to school and you can have your presence known at the city council, for example, or the school board, or wherever legislation is effective. So my stance on the future generation is be involved, but understand your involvement and use that energy wisely. Use your mindset wisely. Is your message going to get sent? Is your message going to be delivered the way that you want it to be, and how will it impact those leaders that decide make those decisions? So that's the message that I've done. And I also educate them on voting is important. Get registered. Your vote matters. It does. It really matters, especially in local elections. I don't think people realize how close elections can be.
Do you have any plans for Pride Month coming up next month?
Well, Del Rio doesn't really have a Pride. I was looking at the calendar. My company sent out some messages about we had Pride Month in Seattle, New York, San Francisco, and I'm going to look at, I don't even think I'm off. I just realized that. Side note, I digress. The local magazine here, Rio Grande Magazine, is doing an article on me being born and raised in Del Rio and LGBT focus, kind of just educating the public that I'm more than just gay. So I think that's what I'll focus on for Pride Month. If I get the opportunity to go to a festival on a weekend if I'm off, I think I might. Diana, in a way, I've outgrown going to all that. I used to live for that. I loved Chicago Pride. I was in their parades as a veteran. The Seattle Parade, where one of those pictures stems from. Both pictures, actually, one was in Seattle, the other was in San Francisco that same weekend. I used to live for that, and now I'm just like, I will always be myself. I'll wear a tutu and Speedo and heels on the beach. I wore my heels at the Veterans Parade here in Del Rio because I'm walking in women's shoes because I support women's rights. And some people twisted it into the LGBT thing, which is part of my element, but I didn't have the LGBT flag. I had the class of 2001 flag with me, or the banner with me. And so there's all these different elements that I have. My Pride Month is really focusing on Del Rio, really. I mean, that's something. I'm an LGBT. How symbolic is that? Having an LGBT candidate be mayor during Pride Month. Like, I think that in and of itself, I think a lot of LGBT feel so isolated in their hometown communities if they grew up in a small town. And I'm an example of educating people. I'm not this weird guy that's like, oh, he's gay. Like, what is he doing? Like, no, I'm Rafi. I'm the mayor of Del Rio. Come get to know me and be Pride here.
And do you think that maybe you don't feel the need to participate in those kinds of events anymore because you feel included now?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm also not insecure with my sexuality. I think I was still looking for community when I lived in Chicago, Los Angeles. My partner and I, my ex-partner and I lived in Los Angeles together. That's when I lived there. In Chicago, I was by myself, single. Had a couple partners here and there, but in Seattle, I was single. But the reason why I bring single and partner is because you're looking for somebody. I'm looking for a relationship. I want to find the one to spend the rest of my life with. I'm looking, and I'm also looking for connectivity, and feeling like I'm part of this community. I'm gay. I should feel included. Why don't I feel included? And and I always wondered why. And I think the element is. Not that it's because I don't feel included in LGBT. I'm completely included. It's because I'm missing that Tejano factor, the San Antonio, Alamo, the Del Rio border, the Eagle Pass, culture. This is my heritage, the Southwest Texas region. It's a culture in and of itself. And I recognize it, having been gone. I didn't live here for 15 years. I moved back in 2016. It's a similar entity that the Creole culture exists in Louisiana. When you go to New Orleans, you're in a completely different environment and set of rules and expectations. Similar with the Tejano culture, where we're a mix of people, and it's a beautiful thing. And when I realized that, I was like, oh, I don't really need Pride anymore. I was looking for the wrong element. I was looking for my Tejano background, and I had it all along here in Del Rio.
I think that about covers everything. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's about it. I gave you the background, the Air Force. I work at I think just maybe I work at an airline, and
What airline do you work for?
I work for Delta Airlines. And I've been working in the airline industry for 11 years.
And what do you do for Delta?
I'm a flight attendant.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
And when did you get out of the Air Force?
2005. Yeah. I started at a regional airline for 7 years, and I just finished my 4th year anniversary at Delta. So.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're going to keep working for Delta while you're the mayor?
Yeah, I'm a commuter. I'm what in the industry calls a commuter. I get to work. As long as I get to work on time, that's all that Delta cares about. And and I fly to domestic. I do domestic trips, international trips, all mix. I'm not picky at all. And that's kind of cool because I can carry Del Rio literally with me. And some stories, even last night I was coming home, both pilots trained at Laughlin Air Force Base, and now they're at Delta. I've had pilots flying me to Seoul, and they started their careers at Laughlin Air Force Base. And that's important to educate the public. Like, we are a global entity. We're valuable here in Del Rio, you know? Mm-hmm. And because everybody likes to compare this most to San Antonio and Austin, and I'm like, no, it's important to understand how important Del Rio is.